Well, the end of the year is fast approaching, and winter break is the perfect time to read. So today I'll be going through my top 10 most impactful books of 2025, giving some reviews and recommendations. And though these are my personal opinions in terms of ranking, they're all masterpieces, and I think most people would highly recommend them all. So from talking animals and made-up monsters to philosophers pondering the most deepest questions of life, here are my top 10 books of 2025. Starting off at number 10, we have The Great Gatsby. Now, this is probably the most basic book on this list, but let me just say, I got done with this book and I kind of hated it. And I wasn't going to put it on the list because I was like, it's the worst. The ending is terrible. But upon more reflection, I realized that that's kind of a good thing. This book is empty, and it's empty for a reason. It leaves you with a feeling of, well, what was the point of all that? And without giving any more spoilers on a super old book that I feel like most people I know have read, it conveys that really well. It conveys the inability to go back to the past really well. In terms of other personal things I didn't love about it, I thought it was kind of short and had one theme, and I'm used to books that have a lot of things going on. So I also didn't like the main character. I thought he was really boring. Maybe I should reread it eventually and see if that still holds up. But overall, I think it was good for what it was, and I think it belongs on at least the bottom of the list. Number 9 is The History of Christian Thought by Jonathan Hill. Now, I hadn't heard about this book until I got it for Christmas and read it, but it was really interesting to have a not necessarily Christian perspective on church history. I thought one of the most interesting things about it was the biographical nature of it, because a lot of the times when you're reading a church father's work, you kind of just read the work and you don't really know too much about their personal life. But this one blends in their background, their context, their work, and their impact. And I think that's really important when learning about church history. So some of the highlights in this book were Peter Abelard, John Wycliffe, and Jan Hus. I think everyone should know who those people are, and if you don't, you might want to give this book a read. Number 8 is Dracula. I didn't really know what I was getting into with this book. I had it recommended, and I thought, well, I like some horror stuff, I'll give it a try. And at the beginning, it was just that. It was very exciting. The first probably 100 pages or so is this guy who's trapped in Dracula's castle, and it's very mysterious, and you're thinking, oh, he's gonna die 100%, and the chances of escape are like 0. So it's very exciting, it's really interesting. And then it cuts to the main town, and some more interesting, mysterious stuff happens with vampires, and they're trying to save this woman and giving her blood, and it's really exciting. It's very interesting to see kind of a book form of horror, if that makes sense. But then the most exciting thing happens. It turns theological, which is crazy. About the last third of the book, until the ending, we'll get to the ending in a sec, the last third of the book has some of the most interesting theology in a Dracula book I have ever read. So you might be getting a video of that coming out soon. So at this point, it was like a 10 out of 10 book. And then I got to the ending. And without any spoilers, this might be the worst ending to any book I've ever read in my entire life. Not because it's bad, but because it's so boring. Nothing happens. It's so anticlimactic. I can't even believe it. The last 30 pages of this book, maybe more, it's just nothing. They're just going after this boat. They're like, nothing. It's insane. It's actually insane. It's such a fall off. It would be so high on this list if it weren't for the ending. So great book though. I still highly recommend. Just be ready for a slog at the end. Our next books I don't have with me because they were at the university library and not at my small town district library. Big surprise. But our next 7th place is Monologion and Proslogion. I might be mispronouncing them, by Anselm of Canterbury. Now, maybe I'm biased because Anselm is probably one of my favorite theologians, but these two books are incredible. They're very short, they're very bite-sized. If you're interested in getting more into some older theology or medieval in general, really good starting points. It's pretty simple. Every chapter is very bite-sized. I looked up what Monologion and Proslogion were because I forgot. And Monologion is thinking about God, right? And then Proslogion is more of a prayer form about God. They read very similar, but Proslogion is a little bit more devotional. I can't remember which one it is, but Anselm goes over the ontological argument in one of these books, and it's an argument I think is really interesting. Even though Aquinas doesn't like it, I still think it's great. It feels very Augustinian at times with the prayers. It reminds me of Confessions a little bit, and it's both a devotional book and a really interesting theology involved. Another book I don't have with me is After Virtue by Alastair Mackintrye. Now this is an incredible book. I haven't read anything like it really. It's extremely dense and heavy and scholarly, but the things that it says are fascinating. The main idea is that our moral framework has been so broken down that we can't even have coherent moral arguments anymore. And this is something I see in my own life through debating friends or just looking at debates online. And if you go in the trenches of comment sections ever, you'll see people talking past each other and throwing around ideas that both seem logically coherent in our day, but they seriously come to different conclusions. And this is something that Alastair Mackintrye goes over in his book really well. He focuses a lot on telos, maybe I'm mispronouncing that, and that is something that we're missing in our Western society that he points out has been broken down by the Enlightenment, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you read the book. Now, he isn't Christian when he writes the book yet, but he does convert afterward, and I think it's interesting to hear an agnostic talk about these things that I think have their full fulfillment in Christianity, which I'm sure Mackintrye thinks so now. But I highly recommend it if you're interested in that sort of thing. If not, it's really heavy. I probably only understood 90% of it, and that's being generous. Number 5, we have Peace Child. Now, this book is about cannibals becoming Christians, so if that doesn't sound like one of the most interesting stories you've ever heard, I don't know what to tell you. You might be in the wrong place. And the best part about it is it's a true story about 2 missionaries who visit the Sawi tribe and in New Guinea, and they convert them to Christianity. It's one of the most exciting books I've ever read. I finished it in like a week, and I'm a really slow reader, so maybe that doesn't sound impressive, but to me, I was cruising with this, especially working full-time at the time. It was really good. I highly recommend it. It made me rethink missions a lot, and it really reinforced the idea that no one is too far gone and that God actually wants people from all tribes and peoples, and he breaks down every wall he can to meet them. So, great book. Number 4, you should recognize this one. This is Anna Karenina. That's right. I'm still recommending it, even though I've done a video on it. It's an incredible book. I barely scratched the surface on this, really. I was talking about it with a couple other people, and they brought up scenes that I didn't even remember happened in it, because you can't summarize this in a 15-minute video. It's impossible. It's a masterpiece. Leo Tolstoy is a great writer, and I couldn't do it justice if I did like 10 videos on it. Seriously, if you're thinking about reading it at all, I highly recommend. It's fantastic. Number 3 is Animal Farm by George Orwell. This was one of my favorite books as a kid, and I reread it this year, and I thought it probably won't hold up, but I've read some great books this year. I'll give it a try anyway. It was short and simple, and I was like, I could fit it in pretty easily. It was really good. It held up. It has some of the most iconic scenes and quotes of any book I've ever read. It has a great message against authoritarianism, and without getting political, it makes you really think about government in a way that makes you remember it's supposed to be serving the people and not the elites. The elites. And the ending is one of the best endings to any book or story I've ever read. It gave me chills when I listened to it as a kid, and now it did the same thing. So highly recommend. If you have no time for any other book, this might be the one. Number 2, I also don't have with me, but it is Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. Now this book is nothing short of life-changing. My friend recommended it to me, and I was thinking, okay, I'll humor you, I'll try it. It's short enough. It's like 120 pages, and they're short pages. But this book is fantastic. Boethius covers everything from the problem of evil to predestination, and he does it in a way that I was able to understand it like completely. I was reading it, and it wasn't this heady medieval book that I had built up in my mind. It was just reading it, and I go, okay, that makes sense. About extremely difficult topics. The only thing keeping it down in my mind is this poetry that he does in it. He alludes to Greek myths and other social stories that just, they're not interesting to me. It takes me out of it so much, and I understand their place, but it's a personal thing. I don't like it. It's really distracting. But his theology is great. His philosophy is fantastic. It's nothing short of genius. So what could possibly be better than a book that's life-changing? Well, our number 1 book is something that was world-changing. This is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. It was a book that was instrumental in ending slavery, and it's almost perfect. Every single page is either entertaining, tragic, or profound, or all three. It is masterfully written, and even irrational characters can be tied to people that you might have interacted with in everyday life. It's eye-opening to what the 1800s were actually like, and it's something that you won't get from a history book. These are characters that are based on true events, as the last part of the book explains, and it's deeply convicting as a Christian to come face to face with the evils of the world. I think that it's important to see things as they actually are, and this book doesn't hide those. It was monumental, and the note from the author at the end really ties it up in a nice bow. But it's not all tragic. This book is really fun at times. It made me laugh, it made me care about the characters, it made me look inside my own life and the world around me, and realize that, yes, you do have to take things for what they actually are, but you do that for a reason. You do that because there is a God who cares. You do that because there is a God, repeated over and over in this story, who cares about the oppressed, who hears their cries, and one day they will be with him in glory. And that's why I think this book is pretty much perfect, and I could not, in good conscience, put another book in the number 1 spot, possibly even in my life. 10 absolute masterpieces for you to try out this new year. I hope that this list has been helpful and you at least heard one book that piqued your interest. Either way, I hope you have a great new year of fullness, trying new things, and appreciation for art.